Dragon Ball DAIMA is finally starting to reach its climax, and now things are really going to heat up in this anime. This episode revealed some really interesting things to us, including the moment when Goku will finally transform into Super Saiyan 3, which I think is what everyone is wanting to see now, right? In this video, we're going to go through all of this slowly, and I'll explain who Goku's next big opponent will be in this anime. Do you think you already know who it is? Let's check it out. Stay connected in the channel and let's go to the video. The episode starts with the group's plane flying through the second world. Pansy wants to know if everything went well, and Glorio says yes, the plane is much better. He compliments Pansy for the good work, and she's really happy about it. Pansy calls Paral, that ugly green guy who works for her father. Pansy tells Paral to let her father know that they've already got the Dragon Ball from the second world and are flying to the first world. Paral informs her that her father, King Kadan, went to steal a plane to go to the first world, but Pansy tells Paral to let him know that it's not necessary, since the people from the outer world are very strong, so they won't need King Kadan. In the first world, at Goma's castle, the king is talking to Degesu, asking if the military police are ready, and Degesu says yes. But besides that, Goma wants to know if they are ready, and they refers to a special force. Are we going to see another version of the Ginyu Force? I'm curious. But before we continue, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next Dragon Ball DAIMA content and Dragon Ball in general. Thank you so much to everyone who does this. You really help us out. Well, this special team was actually having a snack instead of waiting for Goma in the right place, and when they see the king, they're startled and rush to their places. Then a sort of presentation show starts, complete with colorful lights, poses, platforms, and all that. It's basically a DAIMA version of the Ginyu Force. These special officers begin to introduce themselves. Kadem, Gendarmerie Force Captain; Danima, Force Member number 2, Hylia, Force Member number 3, Mashim, Force Member number 4, and Gaimoi, Force Member number 5. This group forms the Gendarmerie Force. Well, what to say about these guys? They're like a Ginyu Force, but with a worse design. But what stands out in this elite squad is that they use weapons instead of regular ki attacks. So it'll be cool if the anime uses this creatively, since it's not so common in Dragon Ball to see more powerful characters using these things. But going back to the episode, Goma and Degesu explain the mission to these officers, which is basically to stop Goku and the others from reaching the palace. They also warn them that these are very powerful people who were able to defeat Majin Duu and the Tamagamis, which makes the officers a little scared. In the second world, Goku and the others arrive at the warp but realize it's strange, and Niva understands what happened and explains that Goma must have turned off the warp. Right below is the interdimensional tunnel, but as always, it's blocked by a light shield. Goku stretches the power pole to see what happens when it touches the shield, and he gets a huge shock. Niva then steps forward, and when Piccolo asks what he's going to do, he says he's going to air out the demon realm. Niva starts chanting some kind of magic words in Namekian, and with that, he creates a kind of energy sphere in his hand and throws it at the interdimensional tunnel that connects the second world to the third world, causing the light shield to simply disappear. After that, he does the same thing with the tunnel that connects the second world to the first world, thus opening both tunnels. Piccolo quickly deduces that it was Niva who created those shields, and Niva confirms it. Niva explains that he did this because, at the time, the second demon world was a mess. Many outlaws from the third world and a bunch of arrogant people from the first world would show up. In other words, the second world was the place where people from everywhere came just to cause trouble. This disturbance was one of the main reasons why the Namekians left for the outer world. So, Niva decided to put an end to this nonsense by blocking the passages. After that, Warp-sama was placed to manage the traffic, but fewer people used the warp, so the number of travelers decreased, and things calmed down in the second world. Piccolo praises Niva, saying that no other Namekian could have done what he did and that Niva is truly legendary. After that, the group heads off excitedly to the first world. At the castle, Degezu gets a strange feeling that scares him, but even he doesn't know what it is. He asks Goma if he felt the same thing, but it seems that he didn't. At a convenience store nearby, the military police elite squad goes to buy some food, and they end up bumping into Majin Duu and Majin Duu. It seems like they get along really well. The captain of the military police notices they like chocolate and fills a basket to give to them. But it looks like the salary wasn't very big for the officers, so each one only gets one chocolate. But even getting just one chocolate, the two are happy and thank them. Pay close attention to this scene because it might be the key to understanding what will happen for Goku to need to transform into Super Saiyan 3. I know it seems unrelated, but I'll explain better in a bit. From her house, Arinsu notices the high number of police officers around and becomes a bit thoughtful. Curiously, she also feels something strange in the air, just like Degesu did, and wonders if something happened with the tunnel's shield. The group's plane isn't passing through the tunnel very well, and Glorio is struggling to maintain control and speed. They talk about the temperature of the first world, and it seems like it's around 60 degrees in the sky. So Piccolo says it's fine, because if the plane breaks, they can just fly. The group then abandons the plane and flies on their own. Hybis is tasked with carrying one of the Dragon Balls, and Glorio carries the other. The plane's crash frightens two police officers who were patrolling nearby, and one of them notices that the shield went out, while the other sees the group arriving from the sky. Degesu is informed about this and urgently warns Goma. Goma completely loses his temper when he sees the group invading the first world, especially Goku, and orders a full-scale attack on them. It doesn't take long for the attack to come, and now Goku and the others are being pursued by practically an army of police officers who charge at them with everything they've got. And that's how episode 14 of Dragon Ball DAIMA ends. In the preview for the next episode, we see that episode 15 will be called Third Eye. In this preview, we see quick cuts of Goku and the others fighting the military police, who are attacking them with everything they have. Additionally, we see what appears to be a flashback of Dabura holding something that looks like a key or a two-pronged fork, with the tip of it resembling an eye. And I already want to comment on this preview for the next episode because it seems like it's going to be really interesting. The next episode, as I just mentioned, will be called Third Eye, definitely referring to the evil Third Eye, which is one of the most important artifacts in this anime. If the Third Eye is going to be mentioned with more emphasis in this next episode, it's very possible that the group will finally discover where it is, and as we know, it's probably the eye on Hybis's belt. Goma has been watching Goku and the others, and now that they're in the first world facing the military police, he will certainly be fully focused on them. So it's very likely that he'll finally notice Hybis and the belt that Hybis is wearing. In other words, the evil Third Eye will finally be seen and found, and that will be the moment when the group will discuss this artifact and what happened to it in more detail. Now things should really get interesting, folks. If the Third Eye is discovered, a real race will begin to see who gets their hands on it. Goma will certainly do everything to obtain this artifact, since we already know how much he wants it. Degezu, despite seeming harmless, will probably also want this power if he gets the chance. It's very possible that Arinsu will want this power too. And we can't forget about Niva, who, despite seeming so nice so far, might not miss the chance to get his hands on this power. In fact, it's kind of curious that Niva, who is such a magically evolved being and seems to know so much, hasn't noticed the eye on Hibis's belt yet. Also, there's still the race for the Dragon Balls, since all of them are in the first world now. Arinsu has one, and she might end up getting the other two through Glorio. Well, it seems like this anime is finally reaching its peak. Another thing we have to take into consideration is that all the central characters of the story, including the villains, are very close to each other apparently, which means we could be seeing a bigger conflict happen at any moment. It's almost certain that the elite squad presented in this episode will fight in the next one, and they'll probably get beaten by Goku and the others. However, we saw in this episode that the police officers quickly formed some kind of bond with Majin Duu and Majin Duu, and that's where the danger lies. There's a very high chance that Majin Duu and Duu will see the heroes fight with the police, especially when the heroes get closer to Goma's castle, which is where they believe the one-star Dragon Ball is. At the castle, the police elite will also be there, and they'll be forced to face Goku and the others. And as we saw in this episode, the main focus will be on Goku, since he's the one Goma is most worried about. When the police go to face Goku and Goku beats them, Majin Duu, who will probably think that Goku and his friends are the worst people in the world because of Arinsu's manipulation, will want to protect the people who were kind to him and gave him chocolate. At this moment, the confrontation between Goku and Majin Duu will begin. This is actually very good for Arinsu, since it could be the perfect distraction for Glorio to steal the Dragon Balls and take them to her. Since Duu is very powerful, much stronger than Tamagami number 1, it's certain that Goku will need Super Saiyan 3 to defeat him, thus starting the confrontation between Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Majin Duu. Of course, not everything I just mentioned will necessarily happen in the next episode, but it's very possible it'll happen soon. Now, commenting on this episode itself, I found it quite average. It seems like the intention was really to make this episode a bit lukewarm, to set the stage for the next one. There are a few things that bothered me a little, like the large number of coincidences that happened to move the plot forward. For example, it was quite a coincidence that the group ran into Neva. Then, by another big coincidence, it's precisely Neva who was the creator of the light shield, and the only one, or one of the only ones, who could deactivate the barrier so they could move forward to the first world. So, out of millions of Majins, they coincidentally found Neva and took him on the journey, precisely one of the most important guys they could meet. Another big coincidence is that Hybis, the guy who has the evil third eye, ends up joining the adventure and heading to where Goma is. Other than that, there are a few other small coincidences and conveniences that aren't worth mentioning here. But anyway, overall it was an average episode, but it definitely got me excited for the next one. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Now, comment down below what you thought of this episode. Did you like it or not? And what rating would you give it? Leave a like on the video if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel and share this video with any other Dragon Ball fan you know, especially someone you know is watching Dragon Ball DAIMA. A big hug to everyone who stayed with me until now, and I'll see you in the next video.